We have a very, very special presentation coming up next and panel discussion that I'm very excited about. And it's one that is going to showcase our young elected officials here in the San Joaquin Valley who have taken the challenge, who have taken the risks, and have stepped into a role of leadership in their communities, and to really support our communities and the residents that live in their communities. So again, it's a very special conversation to close out the day. Our panel is made up of the young elected officials. They will have a conversation moderated by Sierra Health Foundation and the center's Senior Vice President of Programs and Partnerships, Kaing Hang. It is my honor to introduce Kaing to this conversation around the future of the San Joaquin Valley. Kaing serves on the executive team of Sierra Health Foundation and the center as a Senior Vice President of Programs and Partnerships. In this role, Kaing is responsible for strategic partnerships and program development and oversees the management of the foundation and the center's initiatives. She joined the center and Sierra Health Foundation in 2013. In addition to institutional philanthropy, Kaing worked in state government as a state coordinator for refugee health programs for the Minnesota Department of Health, as an assistant regional coordinator for the Refugee and Immigrant Health Program for the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. She's a native Hmong speaker. Kaing received a Bachelor's of Arts from Brandeis University, a master's in public health from Boston University. She's originally from the Twin Cities in Minnesota. She's the oldest of 7 children and comes from a refugee family dedicated to social justice and racial equity. Kaing, it's my honor to present to you our panel and also to have you lead this and moderate this conversation. I'll turn it over to you, Kaing.
Great. Thank you, Sergio. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Well, welcome, everyone. And thank you so much for hanging in with us for an incredible day one of Equity on the Mall. I am just so excited, team, for this next panel. I wish I could say we save you the last for the best, but I have to say every panel that we've heard throughout the day has been incredible. So we're bringing to you another fabulous panel. The future of the San Joaquin Valley is where and when we'll get an opportunity to learn a bit more about 4 young elected leaders in the San Joaquin Valley. This panel is a conversation with a new wave of leadership in the San Joaquin Valley. These are young, energetic leaders who are not afraid to stand up for what is right for their communities. Equity on the Mall is about and has always been about coming together as a region, as a San Joaquin Valley region, to bring a unified voice to the issues affecting our community. So I'm very excited to host a perspective from young elected officials representing the San Joaquin Valley. And I know that these are just a few of these rock stars, and I'm looking forward for us to be able to create more rock stars like these 4 individuals. So with us today, we have Supervisor Eddie Valero. Supervisor Eddie Valero was first elected to the Board of Supervisors in 2018, serves as the Tulare County Supervisor representing District 4, which includes the unincorporated communities of Badger, Cutler, Orosi, Alderwood, Goshen, Ivanhoe, London, Monsoon, Sultana, Seville, Traver, and Yetta. Wow, what a list. The cities represented in District 4 includes Danube, Woodlake, and a portion of Visalia. A longtime resident of the Central Valley, Supervisor Valero left his hometown to obtain an Ivy League education and returned with a goal of prosperity for Tulare County residents. He has been working with the greater North County to positively impact at-risk youth, particularly fatherless young men throughout the Central Valley. Welcome, Supervisor.
Thank you.
Next up is the Council Member Salvador Solario Ruiz, who represents the city of Delano. Delano City Council member Salvador Solario Ruiz is a first-generation college graduate and the son of immigrants. He attended California State University, Fresno, and received a Bachelor of Arts in Communication. After graduating, he returned to his hometown of Delano because he felt an obligation to help build up the community that raised him. With the help of the community and power of young people, he is now one of the youngest council members in Delano. Sal hopes to inspire other young people to get civically engaged and to amplify the voices of marginalized communities. Sal is also a full-time staff member as a community engagement coordinator with the California Health Collaborative, a nonprofit funded by the California Department of Public Health. Welcome, Council Member. Next is Council President Nelson Esparza, coming to us from Fresno. The council member represents District 7 in the city of Fresno, which includes Central and Southeast Fresno. Nelson is a committed public servant born and raised in the Central Valley. He is the first city council president to identify as half Mexican American and half African American, and is part of a growing number of elected leaders throughout California who are Afro-Latino. He earned his master's degree in public policy from the UCLA Luskin School of Public Affairs and his bachelor's degree in economics from the University of California, Riverside. To this day, he continues to teach economics in Fresno City College. Welcome, council member. And last but not least, unfortunately, her last minute schedule does not allow her to be with us, but she did submit a video, and that is council member Jewel Hurtado. Jewel Hurtado was born and raised in the Central Valley region. At the age of 22, Jewel already had a wealth of experience in community organizing, volunteer management, public speaking, and digital outreach. As the youngest elected official in the Valley, winning a seat on the Kingsbury City Council at the age of 20, Jewel has become a powerful voice for young people in her community, the region, and beyond. So with that, I would love to have each one of you introduce yourself and tell us why you decide to run for office. Let's start first with Supervisor Valerio.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eddie Valero, as mentioned. To be frank with you, I actually did not want to get involved in politics early on in my educational career. But the reason why I did decide to get involved is because I was actually on the East Coast and I was working on my PhD to become Dr. Eddie Valero. But there was a tug in my heart, late one night at 10:30 p.m., Planet Fitness in Ithaca, New York, where I just got that tug to come back home. And I fought it initially, but then decided, you know what, I need to go back home. So I did. And when I came back home with a question mark, I easily began getting involved. I was on the school board for Cutler Rossi Joint Unified, 6 years, 4 years as president. And during those times, we were in the trenches doing work, changing the fabric and the landscape of the Cutler Rossi area, because Cutler Rossi had had a gray cloud over its community. And I decided that I needed to come back home and really move that cloud and help build a collaborative empowerment community to change the lives of our next generation. So I have been excited and involved thus far and continue to try to do the great work that is needed in the Central Valley.
Wonderful. Councilmember Esparza?
Yes, my pleasure to be here. Thank you. You know, I sleep best at night when I'm trying to help folks. So really that's sort of why I'm in the line of public service in general. I would say the bug for, not for elected office, but for public service, generally speaking, struck me as a very young person, around 18 years old, had the opportunity to do an internship at the state capitol for one of the freshman assembly members, and really got to see sort of the process of how laws are made and you know, how our lives, our everyday lives are shaped, you know, by those laws. So I was hooked on wanting to be in public service, very intrigued and interested, and wanting to impact the process for not just my community, but really folks across the state. But you know, as I navigated the process, I came to find that really all politics is local, and you know, the impacts ultimately are local on people, just like myself and yourselves. So ultimately, you know, I knew I wanted to be in some service capacity, you know, serve my community. It wasn't until years later when someone suggested running for office, and then coming back to my local community here in the Valley, taking a look around and not being satisfied with the level of representation, you know, around our communities, thinking, well, you know, I've I've learned, I have some experience, I have an education, I think I could do a better job. So from there, I thought, well, you know, where could I best serve at this time? Where could I utilize my skill set to serve the community? That was the county board of education, and so that's actually where I started my elected career was running for the Fresno County Board of Education, representing Central Fresno and South Fresno. And to this day, again, I've continued to teach economics at the college. So in everything I do, it's really just, trying to find a way to serve. If I ever was not in an elected office, I'd find a different capacity to serve it. But I think that elected offices, not everyone takes the plunge. And if you have the ability, you should step up and give it a shot to serve and lead your community.
Great. Thank you, Council Member. Let's go to Council Member Solario Ruiz.
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Oh, I'm sorry, Council Member, we can't hear you.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much and for having me today. Hello, everyone. My name is Sal Solorio Ruiz, and I am a council member for the city of Delano. I'm just so honored to be in this space, hearing Supervisor Valero and Councilmember Nelson Esparza, and I'm hearing all of this, and just I feel so honored to just be in this space of community of wanting the best for our Central Valley families. So I got involved in public service and politics right after college. I started volunteering with now Mayor Osorio. I started volunteering with him by attending council meetings and by attending community events, by knocking on doors, getting public input on what they wanted to see happen in the community. And after a while, you just sit there and as a public individual, you sit there and you say, these folks, some of these folks aren't really representing, us or the community as a whole to the best of their ability. So I decided after college, to run for office, to run for city council. And it has truly been an honor to serve my community. I think that, most of the time folks, decide to run for office for themselves, but truly it's about the community. It's about what similarities we all have with each other and making sure we strive to hold up our marginalized folks, to hold up the voices that, are speaking, but have just not been brought to the table. Because I think that's really what it's about. It's about, even if we all have differences and we're all not gonna, believe in the same thing, at the end of the day, let's come together as a community and work to make sure that, my community of Delano, families are able to raise their kids here, and able to make sure that our youth have opportunity to truly live one of their best life in the community of Delano. My slogan when I ran was, change can't wait. And it was change can't wait because, our families, all the time, they're just, most of them, they're struggling to pay their rent, to put food on the table, especially right now more than ever during, still in the pandemic, right? Post-pandemic as well. It's important to keep in mind our families and to make sure that we are always seeking that feedback from them and always, because we work for them, right? We work for the community. That's why we're here today. So just thank you so much. And like I said, it's an honor to be in this space.
Thank you so much, Council Member Solario Ruiz. Next up, let's hear from Council Member Hurtado.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jewel Hurtado, and I am a council member representing District 1 right here in the city of Keansburg, which is in the heart of the San Joaquin Central Valley. I've been serving in this role for almost 4 years. My term is almost done. I was elected at the age of 20. I started my campaign at the age of 19. And listen, y'all, I only won by 8 votes. 8 votes. Every vote counts. And that's the message that I want to share with you all today. Whether you are out canvassing for candidates that you share values with, whether you are making phone calls, or you're simply sharing on social media the importance of voting, you are helping us towards a brighter future for the San Joaquin Central Valley. And let's be honest, for the state and for the nation, right? Social media can touch so many people's lives. And so my message to you today is to not to give up. Just because you are young does not mean that your voice does not matter. Just because you are young does not mean that you don't want a brighter future for yourself, for your children, and for your family. I have a 4-year-old child. He was only 3-4 months when I started my campaign running for office. And I will tell you that things like healthcare are important to me. Things like our educational systems and things like that. So I don't have much time, but what I will say is that you are in great hands with Mayor Osorio and Supervisor Valero. And I am, once again, so sad that I can't be with you, but I know that together we can make a difference. And I don't mean to say that in like the cliche way. I mean, in numbers holds power. And when we show up to vote, our voice will be heard. So don't forget to vote June 7th. I hope you've already turned in your ballots. And if you have, encourage your friends and family members too. We've got this. If you guys ever need anything, I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the things. So reach out. I hope you have a great day. And yeah, si se puede. Let's go.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Hurtado. I know you are here with us in spirit. So what an incredible introduction from all of our panelists. What I've heard is, one, you wanted to help your community, believe that politics is local, representation matter, right? Councilmember Solario Ruiz, you said, and it's at the end of the day, it's about community. And that's what this network is all about. The San Joaquin Valley Health Fund, it's about community, grounded in community. So let's start our conversation. What do you see as the biggest challenges to policy change in your respective district or communities?
I'll go ahead and hop in. I think very short and simple. It's ultimately, we tend to stand in our own way. There's power in numbers of residents here in the Valley, but I think there is this historical conditioning of our mindsets that things can't change, or at least can't change that quickly. And so I think if we can push through that, and we can push through and folks find their power as a collective, that ultimately will shine through in the form of big differences in policy throughout the San Joaquin Valley.
Thank you, Councilmember Esparza. So Councilmember Solario Ruiz, you said your campaign slogan was "Change Can't Wait," right? So how do you address that barrier that the council member just spoke to? That policy can happen. How do you mitigate that?
Yeah, no, I think that it's about how we educate the community. I think we can all come in with our great ideas, with the education that we learned, or the life experience that we have. But I think at the end of the day, it comes out to the community wanting it as well, and outreaching to them and knocking on doors. I'm proud to say that, my first year before the approval of the budget, I made sure to knock on doors and to do a survey to the community on, hey, what do you want to see? Do you want the funds to go here? Do you want them to go there? What's your opinion? Because I think most of the time, our elected officials, they knock on doors and get community input when it's time for re-election or when it's time for an election. But I think that's not the way to go. I think we need to always want to seek that community input, because like I said in the beginning, we're there to serve the community.
So I'll share a different perspective, being on the dais. So for me, at least, when I ran in 2018, just to give you a bit of numbers, there's about 300,000 plus Latinos in Tulare County, out of a population in Tulare County of 465,000. I am the first Latino to serve on the Board of Supervisors since the county was founded in 1852. Putting that on the dais has been a little bit of a challenge, given that I do come from a different background than some of my colleagues on the dais. And so again, the worldview, the perspective of, or the ability to engage in conversations that talk about inequity, that talk about unevenness of balance, that talk about just issues that we need to address for the whole, has been somewhat difficult, but challenging, but also rewarding. And so for me, at least, I've been blessed with the opportunity to be in spaces where I get to also challenge my colleagues in terms of looking at the worldview differently. And so for me, at least, that's what's been a little difficult in terms of how do we are able to see the biggest challenges when it comes to policy making. Obviously, early on, I wanted to come in and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, but we're only one of five. And so how do we work in building relationships, but also how do we work in really seeing the views of the opposition, but also the views of those that align with you, and really being able to build those relationships, again, even when there are trying times when we're trying to get things passed or moved forward.
That's right. Thank you so much for saying that, Supervisor. And you know, the Valley, and you all are sons of the Valley, so you know this more intimately than anybody else, that there are multiple issues in the Valley. In your mind, talk to us a little bit about what you see as the most pertinent issues facing the Valley today.
If I can just start with that one really quick, that would be water. Water is an issue that is affecting us all over the globe. And so this is something that I've been working really hard on, especially because I represent 12 unincorporated communities, many of them who do not have clean drinking water. So imagine youth and families only knowing that water comes from a bottle and not from their own tap is unacceptable in 2022. So fighting several institutions like the Orosi Public Utilities District, who doesn't want to intertie their pipes to East Orosi, a small little community who needs clean drinking water, and fighting that at the state level to make sure that the Tulare County is an administrative role and has a responsibility to make sure that that action happens. Similar issues in Yereman Seville on the United Nations report, as well as CNN. All of these have been right here in the Central Valley because there are issues that are still plaguing our communities, and we need clean drinking water, and we need it now.
Completely agree.
So this is where you're going to see the a little bit of a difference in perspectives. I wholeheartedly agree with Supervisor Valero, but just sort of in my day-to-day, being more in kind of the urban core of the Valley, I would have to say housing. We have a severe housing crisis, not just in the San Joaquin Valley, but really statewide and to some degree nationwide in terms of a shortage. And what we're seeing is here, one of the most impacted parts of our state and country here in the Valley, households being crunched by these housing prices in this housing market to the point where it's really destroyed and sort of thrown off completely their budgets and their ability for their income to pencil out with respect to the bills and sustain economically their family. So water is very important. I wouldn't say one is more important than the other, but again, from where I'm standing, just sort of again in my respective jurisdiction, housing certainly is the number one issue right now, and I hope we can take it. We are taking a number of steps to alleviate that crisis, but it is a very big issue.
Yeah, no, I agree with both of you. I think that water is definitely an issue that has always been there, and I think we need more action when it comes to our state legislators. I also think that housing is an issue, right? Here in Delano, we are landlocked. So it's very difficult to build housing, or if there is housing being built, how are we making sure that folks are able? It's like one of the things that people always talk about is, well, hey, as long as it's housing, but no, it's not just about building housing. It's about, is it affordable, right? Will folks be able to pay their mortgage on time? Will they be able to pay their rent on time with the apartments that we built here, right? And that all also starts with making sure that, right now folks are struggling. Folks are struggling with the prices that are going on, the inflation that's going on. So it's making sure we prioritize good paying union jobs, making sure that we're prioritizing that in our community as well. And also, I think one of the things that often we don't talk about is making sure we're providing the mental health services to our youth right now who are also struggling. Gun violence is an issue everywhere, and we've seen it. Even most recently, it's horrible, and it's how can we tackle that complex issue as a community, and making sure we provide our the opportunity to our youth, and making sure folks don't have to go that route, but have all the resources they need to truly live their best life when it comes to a good paying job, making sure they can pay their rent on time, put food on the table, and et cetera. But I would say it's a good question, because I think there's more than one top issues that families are facing today.
Mm-hmm. And I think you're all correct. I heard community violence prevention, mental health, economic stability, access to safe, affordable drinking water just for basic usage, housing. These are all critical issues. And I hope that you all had some chance today to hear from some of our esteemed panelists who also spoke to the intersectionality of immigration, health, housing, environment, education, land use, and planning, because nowhere else than in the Valley, where all of these issues are so intricately connected in the deep intersectionality across all of these issues. Supervisor Valerio, were you going to say something?
Yeah, just briefly, in terms of another issue that I think is plaguing our community is that of broadband internet and access to reliable internet. Just in Traver alone, a community that I represent, the school itself has internet, but when you cross the street to the homes that are there, they're on dial-up. And so completely unacceptable as well. And we know that we have a learning loss that we need to catch up to over the summer and in the years ahead. And so we need to make sure that the youth that we are teaching for tomorrow do catch up, and really making sure that in the next pandemic or in the next challenge, that we do have that reliable internet to keep all our communities equitable, and to keep all our communities moving in the right direction with all of the resources as well.
That's exactly right, Supervisor. And it's almost as if you were in on the last panel discussion where we heard from the additional committee, where someone said, if we can't identify a problem, we can't identify a solution, right?
Yeah. And I will just share really quick, because I always put the governor on the spot. So the governor did come to Traver to sign the historic bill for broadband. And Governor, I'm still waiting on one of the 18 projects being that of the Central Valley, specifically Tulare County, because we brought you here and we want broadband internet in the heart of the Central Valley, and that is Tulare County.
So thank you for saying that, Supervisor. So let me build on that comment, because so much of what I said earlier about this incredible network is that it is driven by community residents. It's the voices of the community being uplifted, saying no more, unacceptable, that we should be disproportionately impacted by health and racial inequities, right? So say a bit more about the importance, how you see your relationship and perhaps the importance of a connection to a constituency or advocacy group. So how number one, is it important in your mind to have a connection to community? And number two, with that connection, how can community help you, right, as elected policy maker champions to advance the issue that the community wants? Because they've identified a problem, and now they want to help you put into action their identified solution.
I can go first. So I think that it's a saying that I heard before I ran, which was, while internships in Sacramento are amazing and provide you great experience, you shouldn't run for office just because of that. You should run for office because you've spoken to your neighbor who is undocumented, who feels threatened because she might be deported by ICE. Because you've talked to folks in your corner or in your area about their water not being able to drink their water. So it's about making sure that we are always getting community input and getting the community's opinions in the back of our minds when making decisions, always saying, well, whose voices aren't being heard here? What opinion is out there that we need to bring into the table? And I think I think I spoke on it earlier, it starts with education. educating our community, making sure that, they know what's going on, right? Making sure there's updates, there's in regards to getting community input, or even when there's, when there's public hearings happening on certain buildups or projects. But I think it's about making sure that we keep their opinion in the back of our minds when we are making a decision, especially an important decision when it involves economic development or different things building in the city.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree with that. When you're making these decisions and deciding sort of which direction you want to go and pursuing your policy agenda, really, community input is critical, and then having a reliable flow and source of information, policy analysis. I think you really need both, because if you're just relying on sort of the technical analysis of an issue, it's really easy to miss the human aspect, and to miss the folks that are living through the issues. So it helps that we all live in our districts, right? We're there shoulder to shoulder with residents we represent. So that's part of it. Just being in your community, knowing your community, listening to them, in collaboration with that other side, that technical side of the policy making process.
For me, I would say being comfortable in the chambers. Many times I see individuals that will come up and they will freeze, or they will just be uncomfortable. This is your room. This is your space. This is your time to engage with us in the decision-making process. And when we don't do that, then it hurts us, because we can't move our ideas or innovations along. And so I always encourage individuals that come up to me and I said, look, don't get nervous. You have that voice. Just use it. And this is critical moments. These are critical junctures in which we make those decisions happen, but it's because of you coming to the podium and being able to express that. So if I could encourage anyone, it would be, hey, don't get nervous, be comfortable in your surroundings. And I would also say too, when it comes to how to engage community, one of the things that I've been doing as a supervisor representing several communities is making sure that every single community has a town council, or every community has some type of avenue in which I can come and go to these communities and hear firsthand from the people that are living the day-to-day in Ivanhoe, in Goshen, in Traver, in Badger. And I built those relationships because they've built the relationships among themselves in building that community. So again, if they can't show up at a 9 a.m. meeting, which is often frustrating, right? Because many of us are working and don't have the luxury of being able to say, you know what, I'm going to take this time off and I'm going to go to a meeting at 9 a.m. The majority do not have that opportunity. So we have to find other mechanisms, other vehicles through which a politicized consciousness is motivated through actions of economic, social, political justice. And that is how we do that, is when we get into these communities, build up, provide the information, then take it back to the dais in order to make those decisions happen as well.
This is so heartening for me to hear, because so often the responsibility of engaging with elected official is oftentimes placed on the constituents, right? And what I hear all three of you say is that you see it as a two-way street. You're also making yourself available. You're going out to your district. You're going out to your city parameters and getting to know your constituents. So you're not just meeting them in your chambers, in your offices, and that there is opportunities, multiple ways to engage. If that is your hope, right? If that is your desire and your value. So we have an audience, a participant who asked, what inspired, you are all clearly inspired to make a difference in your community, but you're also young people. So what is your message in terms of how can we activate young people to get involved? Along the same line of this question about community engagement. So how do you engage? How would you activate or encourage a young person to get involved?
I think our young people today are more informed than ever, have access to more information than ever. and I think are more of a socially conscious generation than we've seen lately, right, in the last couple of generations. And so I think finding a way to channel their energy, right, is showing them that yearning for a better world to live in, a better place, is possible. Then it's at the tip of their fingertips. And if we get them to take a look back at history and when these large social movements have taken place and policy changes have come as a result, it's been young people at the forefront. So I think they currently harness more power than ever have before as a young generation. And we, I don't think drawing the line for them from what their ability is to what could be is too long of a pathway to travel.
So I will say this, and it might come off as rude, but yes, they are the most knowledgeable, but the least likely to vote. The least likely to vote. And that is what is upsetting me now in this current election, where only 6% within my district have voted. So you're saying 6% out of 35,000 ballots that are out there in northern Tulare County. And when I look at the demographics of who has voted, the bracket 18 to 24, 2%, 3%. So what can we do to engage our young people to, yes, share the issues, share the concerns, but it also has to happen at the ballot box. And so any of you young people that are here today, make sure that you turn in your ballot for those that do have the opportunity to vote. And again, it's making sure that you have the ganas. Everyone inside of themselves has the ganas to move forward. But how do we ignite the ganas within us in order to make sure that we're bringing community along at the same time? And so there's a lot of work to do. Believe me, I'm drowning in work, but it doesn't happen overnight. So we have the long haul that we still need to work on, but continue to join the fight, join the journey, and join the causes that really spark that dynamic in you to take it out and build community with it.
No, I agree. I think that to answer the first question, what inspired me to run for office, I would say a big component was, my little sister, Skylar, because I had to look at her and look what's going on in my city and say, am I adding to making sure that she's growing up in a place that I want her to grow up in an environment with resources and opportunity. And if I could be in that decision-making table, even though it is hard and it's tough at times, it's rewarding. But in regards to the second component of the question, I think that I agree with Councilmember Esparza. I think that, young people are more in tune now more than ever. But I think it's about making sure that, I think that oftentimes young people get hopeless because they attend their meetings, they attend their council meetings, or they want this change, but it's impossible with the challenges that we see at times because of we don't have the votes for this certain policy that's moving forward or this opportunity that the youth want to see. But I guess I just want to let youth know to not lose hope, to not lose faith, and hey, you also deserve to be in a seat like this because this is your seat. And if you don't see that change in your community, then get a couple folks together and run for office yourself. And I think that's one thing that young people are hopefully being that example that, hey, you yourself can be in this seat. You can do this as well for the benefit of your community. But I think we have to, as leaders, we need to make sure that we are providing that hope for the youth to say, hey, you know what? Let's not back down. We got so much work to do. Like Supervisor Valero said, we have so much work to do. Get involved. Come to a council meeting. Being in that space in the chambers is just so different. I will say that coming in, I made sure that I extended an opportunity to some high schoolers and made sure that they became some of my interns. And I have about 4 to 5 of them who are involved, who are planning food distributions with me, getting community input and doing surveys and knocking on doors. So there's stuff that always needs to be done for the community. So if young people want to get involved, just contact your elected official, contact your board of supervisor, contact your council member. And if they don't, want to take you in, then maybe you find someone else who does. But I guarantee you right now, as we speak, there are people organizing. There are people who've been doing this longer than I've been here, longer than, Supervisor Valero has been here. And it's about making sure that, we know who they are, and if, they have an opportunity for young people and anyone who is interested in serving their community in any capacity. You don't need a title to serve your community.
So what I'm hearing from all of you is get involved, vote, maybe even run for office, and then lead, right? Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about some of perhaps the unanticipated challenges you're faced with as being a young elected.
So, Councilmember Esparza, do you want to go next? I know, because I spoke on the recent one. Want to give
no, sure. That's I'm happy to share. I would say that starting off as a young person in elected office, politics, imposter syndrome is real. It feels real, but it is not real, right? You got to believe in yourself and trust that you are the real deal, and that your opinions and thoughts and the value you bring to the table is legitimate, and it needs to be heard, especially, and deep down in your heart if it's on behalf of the community. And so that's really sort of where it begins. So you do face challenges in terms of folks maybe not taking you quite as seriously. I do look a little older now than when I first began in elected office about 6 years ago. And when I first started on campus, even before elected office, I was teaching students who were older than me or about my age. And so as I've gotten a little bit older, the students have started to call me sir on campus now. And they don't quite see me as their equal anymore. So that's helped. But again, thinking back to when I was getting started, you treat people with respect, and you expect it back, and you don't tolerate any less. I know that your ideas and thoughts on what you bring to the table on behalf of your community is valid. And you just got to remember that as you navigate through the different challenges. And in terms of actually running for office, no matter what age you are, right, you're going to find the challenges and the different aspects of the campaign side and fundraising and such. And, you find a mentor to help you navigate some of those aspects, and keep your head up, because, you will trip and fall every now and then. It's inevitable. What matters is that you keep going.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that, AOC has, she says this one quote that, we need to build, if you run for office, you need to build that rhinoceros skin. And I think that's so true, because coming into this, I knew what my community wanted based off the outreach that I've done, but, I did have that imposter syndrome. I still have it at times, because you hear at times the negativity is louder than the positivity. Right? The folks who criticize, it's so easy for folks to criticize, especially, the critiques that I've gotten in the beginning were from the older folks. Right. As far as, he's young, right? Why is he running for office? He still lives with his mom. It's like when they have absolutely no idea the situation of people. Oftentimes we hear all of that, but we can't let it get to us, because what I've kept telling myself, I think now moving forward, is I deserve to be in this seat, and you're going to see me as a young person making moves on this dais, asking tough questions, and making sure we prioritize the needs of our community. And if you don't like that, then I'm sorry, then you can run your candidate in 2024. But as of right now, we have work to do. And it's about making sure that we kind of block out that negativity and that noise, and saying, you know what, let's push that away and let's move forward with what we're doing for our community, and making sure you have that support system. I think a support system is needed in this work, because if you don't have that, it's very difficult to make sure, you can speak to folks after a meeting and say, whoa, did you hear that comment? It was tough, and to say, you know what, you're going to be okay. We're all going to be okay, and we're going to advocate for our community and continue the work we're doing. So I would just say, you're going to hear those challenges of that imposter syndrome comments, but at the end of the day, just know why you're there, and hold on to your values and never lose your values, because oftentimes folks are going to want to hit you from left to right, from up to down, but you got to make sure you're centered. in why you got there in the first place, to serve your community.
Mm-hmm.
And what
was bring you into this conversation.
Yeah, and so I would just say that I've learned that 98% of people are going to love you, support you, encourage you, empower you, inspire you. 2% are going to do quite the opposite, are going to try to anger you, are going to try to take you off course. Why listen to the 2%? Make sure that you align yourself with the 98% that are there to see you move forward. And so many times we can get caught off guard, or we can only hear the negative and not the positive. But just know that there is so much more love out there than there is the negative. And I'll just share another tough thing that I've had to deal with is how we allocate our $1.6 billion for the county of Tulare. There are 5 supervisors, and we all have to make sure we distribute that money equitably and accordingly. And so how do I engage, build those relationships with my colleagues to make sure that the needs of Northern Tulare County also need to be heard, need to be seen in order to get the resources into my district? So tough job, but a beautiful job nonetheless.
Indeed. And we're so thankful that you are all where you are, because truly, if you represent the future of the Valley, it's very strong. So the Valley, each one of you represent a specific jurisdiction. But the folks who are here with us today represents, the entire San Joaquin Valley region. So say a little bit about what you think or how you think we can build community power throughout the region. What would it look like and what will it take?
I think you build power one resident at a time, one conversation at a time. As we've seen, some of the progress we've made and the biggest changes that we've seen certainly did not come overnight. We got to engage people on a very personal basis and a personal level. There's no silver bullet or magic wand to make it happen instantaneously. It's just about linking together as community, one person at a time. So we can inspire and educate and empower folks, and hope that they do the same for 5 more people after that, and keep that link going. That's really how we build that collective power that I alluded to earlier in the conversation, and really bring whether they're a voter or not, right? Even if you're not a voter, if you're not old enough to vote, or if your status does not allow for it at this time, there are things you can do as a resident, right, to flex your power as a community, and to make sure that your elected officials, that your voices are being heard through theirs, and that their votes reflect your values as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Spoken like a community organizer. Council Member Solario Ruiz or Supervisor Valero, what do you think?
Yeah, so I agree with Councilmember Esparza. I think it happens by having conversations one at a time with community folks. It's about having those tough conversations that, even if it makes us uncomfortable, but still, because oftentimes, let's keep it real, not everyone thinks alike, not everyone has the same opinion. But that's the beauty of democracy, and that's the beauty of where we're at. So it's about making sure respectfully folks are able to have that dialogue back and forth, and to be like, you know what, I see where you're coming from, but this is where I'm coming from based off my life experience, or based off my family's experience. And if folks don't still understand, then you can agree to disagree, but move forward on common issues. But I also think it's about showing up, right? Showing up. Like oftentimes, one of the things that I have now began to do much more of, because of the pandemic kind of, hopefully going away, which is to continue to attend these community events, and to make sure that, I think going back to the question that we were at before was about the criticism and the challenges. It's a lot more difficult for folks to bring up challenges or critiques when you have built a connection with them, truly, right? I think it's easy to throw a ball to someone when they're not in your corner, right? But to make sure that we are truly coming together as a community and saying, hey, you know what, we're on the same team here. and how can we move forward for the betterment of the Central Valley, and just moving forward with love and compassion for our families and everyone in it.
And I'll just share that, adding to that, we really do need a message for the future for the Central Valley. And the reason why is because we need to start educating our northern counterparts, our southern counterparts, because when we take our message to Sacramento, it often gets diluted or it often gets silenced. And who ends up in a lot of these statewide offices? Those in the north or those in the south? When have we had someone from the Central Valley represent the entire state of California? Hasn't been to what, maybe Cruz Bustamante? So again, our message of the Valley needs to be strong. Our best message of the Valley needs to impact, because again, what happens in the Valley happens everywhere else. We are the bread and fruit basket, vegetable basket of the world. And if we don't have that in the Central Valley, then no one gets that around the world. And so again, our message in the future needs to be a collective, a wholehearted message, so that we can take it up to Sacramento and allow change to occur there, to touch the hearts, the minds of those legislators, to really make sure that they are including the Central Valley in their discussions, in their policy making, and in their collaborative efforts for all of California.
Great, thank you. We are approaching our final 8 minutes, so I'm going to ask you the final question for today. And that is, what is your hope for the future of the San Joaquin Valley?
I'll say that we are not seen as the armpit of California, but we are the heart of California. And I'm very excited to share, and this is where I will end my message, is that I currently serve on the Tulare County Regional Transportation Authority. So we're revolutionizing the way transportation is going to look in the future. And I know that was the question that was asked as well. And so we're actually not, so what we're doing is we're doing an umbrella approach. So every city in Tulare County would manage their own transportation system. However, now we're all consolidating it into one. We're going to be creating new routes. We're going to add Uber-like systems that will pick up and drop off at home. We're going to do a cross-rail corridor that will pick up from Porterville all the way through Goshen to connect to the high-speed rail that is soon to come as well. So being proactive, being up in front, being ahead of the game in order to make sure that we are all connecting as one in the future. And that is what I think will happen. We just have to keep mustering away.
Yeah, my hope for the San Joaquin Valley is that young people and everyone in our communities, they know the power within themselves. And they, each and every one of us, we have a story to tell that, resonates with so many. So it's important for us to make sure that we don't lose that hope, to get involved, to be civically engaged more. I would love it for my council chambers to be filled by young people all the time and to provide their input. I want to hear it, So it's like, but it's also about making sure that we're aware that there is a lack of trust within government for years. It's something that needs to be developed, and we need to continue to build that trust. We can't just go in there and say, well, come talk to me. It's like, people have a lack of trust with their government. So how do we build that trust with them? But I just hope, and I hope that in 20, 30 years from now, I could say that we prioritize our young people, that we prioritize them when it comes to their mental health, jobs, bringing down gun violence in our community, which is a huge issue. So, and just leading with love and compassion for all of us.
If I could just add one more thing before Nelson takes up the rest of the time, I'll just share that the harvest is plentiful, but the harvesters are few. And so we need to make sure that we are raising up a next generation of leaders that are going to be able to take or also work with those that are already in leadership. And so again, there's a lot of work, as mentioned previously. The harvest is full, but we only have a few harvesters. And so making sure that we are walking alongside those that we want to help, and making sure that we also are bringing up those. We don't just ask for them, we help bring them up as well, in order to make our community successful.
Okay, that was great, Supervisor Valero. He texted me and said, "Wait, give me a second before you hop in." So that's why I waited for him. So our region is going to continue to grow. We've seen it grow. It's going to continue to grow, and it's really a matter of how and what it develops into. And so I think first there's that's very much two prongs, right? I think our greatest resource is really the people. Who we are, who we bring here. So we need to be a region that is able to attract, as we ran out of housing options in the state, we end up attracting, folks who are not born here necessarily, right, from throughout the state or from other countries. But also in terms of homegrown folks like ourselves, being able to break some of these cycles of struggle. Being able to provide a framework of laws and legislation that help us to thrive and break some of those narratives that we've seen. I think many of us, the three of us who are here on this call, as well as many folks who are watching, probably come from very similar backgrounds in terms of farm worker parents or grandparents and being first-generation college students. So those are stories of success, but still, struggle. And so I'd like to, as leaders here in the Valley, I hope that we can have a positive impact in shaping the narratives of folks being born right now and who they develop into, and that we as a region build out the infrastructure and the resources to have the capacity, right, to grow into something greater than we are now. Our story now is beautiful, but it is a story of struggle. And so we know where we are. We know what tools we have at our disposal, and I think we know roughly what path we want to carve out. It's a matter of again utilizing and channeling that collective community power and forging that path forward.
Wow, what incredible, hopeful messages. Thank you, Supervisor Valerio, Council Member Esparza, Council Member Solario Ruiz. The future is indeed bright. When we first started doing this work with our partners in San Joaquin Valley, I heard for the very first time a term called boomerang. These are individuals who are up and from the Valley, who've gone away and are coming back to really uplift the Valley. And you are truly that in so many ways. You are leaving us with incredible messages, but three things I will take away. First, you're saying, hold on to your values, no matter what. Stand on the heels of your values. Keep your head up and keep showing up, because that's what matters. And lastly, change can't wait, right, Councilmember Solaro? And if we do it right with a lot of love, the Valley can rise and continues to rise. So thank you all so much for joining us. What an incredible way to end day one. I want to thank all of you. And I want to thank all of our attendees today. You are 100+ strong who joined us for day one. We had in addition to you, we had watch parties being hosted throughout the Valley, simultaneous interpretation in Spanish, Hmong, Punjabi, and Mandarin, and highlighted community-driven policies from the San Joaquin Valley community members. And you just heard from your local electeds. The Valley is indeed rising, and how fortunate we are to be able to hear directly from those individuals who's making that happen. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow for day 2 of Equity on the Mall, where we'll continue this important conversation, and we'll have deeper conversation about what it means to create a golden state for all, not just for one or a few, but for all. Immigration, health, and environmental justice continue on this theme of intersectionality. While it is important to go deep on any of these issues, recognizing that at the heart and the beauty of the iHeal platform is that it is all connected. If you haven't registered yet for tomorrow, you can still do so by going to our Equity on the Mall website, which is www.equityonthemall.org. So we'll see you tomorrow. And until then, have a great afternoon and good evening. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. Bye.